Good morning, everybody. I'm super
Yeah,
excited today to be joined by someone who I've gotten to know over the last 6 to 9 months, primarily in the Nifty Gateway Discord, but we've chatted many times behind the scenes. He has been instrumental in helping bring on many of the high-profile guests that have come on the Nifty Culture Show. And although he lives in rural UK and has poor bandwidth, we didn't want to let that hold us back.
yeah,
I want to introduce the world to Talvir, one of the kindest, most humble people that I've had the pleasure to get to know. He reluctantly let me call him an influencer. And although there's a lot of public influencers that are drawing a lot of flack, there are just as many people that work behind the scenes that help artists like Sam Madhu, that help artists like Fuckrinder, and so many more. And he really works hard behind the scenes to just help the community and help everyone. Talvir, how are you this morning?
I'm good. That was a big intro to live up to.
Hey, look, I could have said even more just because every word of it is true. Just you take just such an altruistic view of this space and just getting to know you once again over the last 6 months and trying to peel back the onion to learn more about what gets you excited about this space and what your plans are. So can you
Yeah.
tell us how you got into NFTs and kind of a little bit of your background? And then I want to talk about some of these upcoming projects and your long-term vision.
Yeah, so I got into NFTs around February this year, and I started off by I used to do shoes before this, in fact, like buying and flipping shoes. And then my friend introduced me to NFTs. I didn't know what they were at this point. And then I just kept buying and selling and flipping them. And then I came across artwork which I actually really liked, and that got me into holding artwork and actually collecting. Yeah,
That's awesome. I'm a little bit of a sneakerhead, kind of a Yeezy junkie. In fact, I've got Yeezys down here, that there.
yeah,
I have way too much Kanye West stuff. Obviously, you can see my beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy LP, and I've
yeah,
even paid and commissioned an artist for 1 ETH to make a custom Kanye NFT for me. So, and that's actually the genesis of kind of the NFT culture name. When Rob, John, Mike, and I were trying to come up with the name for NFT culture in January.
yeah,
The first name that we bought was uh, cryptoarthype.com.
yeah,
And we thought, because we wanted to really take some of the street culture, the hype beast, and all of those types of things. And it's really interesting to see that intersection. And so very quickly we said, okay, we want to be the intersection of artists, collectors, technologists, and the markets. And
yeah,
then it just made sense. Culture. This is all about culture. So it's awesome that you came from kind of the streetwear, street brand, sneaker culture as well. And I think a lot of us came from that space,
yeah,
the grind and everything else. So you very quickly came into the space, came in slightly behind us in terms of getting excited about it, but you've been
yeah.
a rocket ship, becoming a Nifty Gateway mod, and really just getting to know a lot of the artists. So how did you transition from sneakers to really becoming one of the more influential behind the scenes figures in the space?
So it all started from the Nifty Gateway Discord. In fact, like everything came from them, I guess. So owe a lot to them. But initially, I just used to message in there, not really knowing like much about it, and just talking about like drops and stuff. And then it slowly like art, artists were like they were using the same mechanic in an essence, and I found it quite repetitive, and I was like, there should be like something new and refreshing in this space which we haven't seen yet. So I tried my luck talking to a few artists, just talking to them casually, not with any business relationship intent. And yeah, the connections grew from there. Mad Dog like introduced me to everyone I know to date, so I'm extremely grateful to him.
Awesome. Mad Dog Jones is one of the collective NFT culture's
Yeah,
favorite artists. We the majority of the team owns at least one of his pieces, and just being so accessible, being a big part of the community and help. And really, Mad Dog Jones was a beacon very early in the space,
Yeah,
humble and helping everyone else. So that's really, really awesome.
yeah,
So let's, when we think about kind of how this has evolved and it's changed, you started just talking, getting to know people, and you do have a private Discord that, if it's got the who's who of NFT artists in it in terms of those people. So
yeah,
what's your vision for kind of how you've been growing in this space? You're at university, but
yeah.
you're really active in this space. So what are your short term, medium term plans over the next 12 to 18 months?
So I'm currently working on a gallery view curation event, and I wanted to bring new artists on board, like people who don't even know what an NFT are and stuff. And I wanted to incorporate like more people, different cultures, and just show different sides of the world, because NFTs are something which don't need any like shipping and delivery costs. It's something which you can send almost instantly, and people can appreciate it there.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and we've been reluctantly talking about the environment quite a bit more. We had Noe on.
Yeah,
Shout out to Noe, big
he's
nifty gateway drop coming up.
yeah,
But it's one of the things, and I've always tried to figure out how to weave it into the narrative is the clutter, right?
yeah,
There's I only have so much wall space for beautiful art,
yeah,
and I'm lucky and I'm blessed that I'm able to afford art and be given pieces of art from people like Shodier and have my physical Top Dog Beach Club and my Noe
yeah,
and my Takashi Murakami. It's all awesome, but
yeah,
like if they're NFTs, they don't take up physical space. And so when you
yeah,
do think about creating physical waste, and once again, we don't have to go too much into the environment, but
yeah,
it's a lot easier to clean up digital clutter
yeah.
than it is for physical. And so I really like what you said there about not only the diversity, but really being able to do a lot of different things with that. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's definitely like it's something which is going to be beneficial. Like you could just say to someone tomorrow, "Oh, do you want to feature in a gallery?" And they'll be able to send it the same day. You know.
Yeah, and that is really really awesome. So going into a little bit more detail about this gallery, and
Yeah.
we've talked behind the scenes. I introduced you to one of my favorite artists, No Creative Abode, and he's making
Yeah.
some recommendations. It sounds to me like you want to have a mix of well-known artists as well as up-and-coming artists. Is there
Yeah.
anything that an artist is? Have you already selected all the art and artists? And how can up-and-coming artists get to know you? Maybe not even. Maybe this gallery is full. I don't know, but for you're going to be doing many many galleries over the next year or two. How
Yeah.
can artists get in front of you, and b, how can they set themselves apart from other artists, because there is a lot of noise right now with artists shilling their work and everything
Yeah.
else.
So to in order, like artists can just approach me or talk to anyone and everyone. Everyone's human. You should give everyone the time of day, and that's how I approach it. I like to give everyone an equal shot, and then like in terms of artists, it's more like if the art presents who they are. That's what I like to see. If I can't feel their characteristics in the artwork being showcased, then it feels like a hollow painting which doesn't have any real meaning behind it. So that's why I like to see like some personality in the artwork as such.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was just posting in your Discord the link to what we're doing right now, and Sky beat me to it by seconds. Um, uh, uh, One of the things that's really really interesting, we talk about this a lot, is how do we differentiate as artists,
Yeah,
and we talk a lot, and I repeat this every time we talk about art on the channel. But we loved NFTs because they removed the curation, and then we immediately created and trusted platforms that curated our experiences. And so there's a lot of fickle and cynical art and artists that do come into the space. And they get frustrated because of projects like super rare projects like Nifty Gateway. But
Yeah.
for me, the part of that is a necessary evil. Super rare and Nifty Gateway aren't taking 50% of the drops like the gallery would be doing.
Yeah.
But for new artists, it's hard for collectors to know if this artist is going to stick around. So if I buy one piece of their first NFT and they don't
Yeah.
make any more NFTs, if they go away, and there's a lot of challenges. And so for me, my core tenets for collecting art, and this is probably similar for you, is does the artist have their work? It doesn't all have to be NFTs, but do they have a body of work that I can go and see, and do I feel like they're going to be sticking around this space for a while? If they have a community, it's even better. But then more importantly is, does the art tell a story? So if I'm looking at it, can I feel something from it? And then finally, does the art resonate with me? Because there's a lot of art that I look at, they've got a big community, but it just doesn't resonate with me. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, what that method goes through, and how, how can artists do a better job of kind of that storytelling or building the community? You being a community builder yourself, both with Nifty Gateway and your own Discord, how can artists think about community building?
Well, it's a difficult question as such, because to build a community, you just need to know the right people. That's what it really comes down to in this space. Like, you could work for hours, but you could be working with the wrong people. They need to have the same mindset as progressive growth as you. And if they're not trying to grow, then you're going to hold yourself back at the end of the day too, which is a real problem with artists. I see them, a lot of artists with potential, but they're not promoting themselves in the right way, and they're still sticking to these just generative methods to grow, and it just shows like they're not putting their own thoughts into it. They're just following, which makes me like wary of buying into them.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting. And also kind of even the established artists like Sam Madhu, who has tried to do some unique things to add some gamification elements to her art and do those types of things. How do you suggest artists kind of thread the needle between just putting up their art and then adding a lot of mechanics? So Mad Dog Jones is a great example of just a cat. A lot of people said that he bought and burned a bunch of them, and he did buy back a big piece of his collection. But then he also created burn mechanics to create variations and variants of the art. After Mad Dog Jones did it very quickly, Dot Pigeon did it, and many other artists started doing that. And now for your PFP projects, like the burn mechanics, very often. So I'm curious, do you recommend all artists kind of try and do that gamification, or is there instances where for an up and coming artist should just try and focus on the quality of their art?
So there should always be some gamification. I mean, you're doing NFTs, like there should be some new mechanics. Otherwise, you should just be doing artwork in an essence. It's bringing the right balance, which you feel comfortable with. Yeah, you're not you're not sticking to your root as such. There should be like a mix in between.
That's awesome. And yeah, we see, I mean, there's also the extreme end with Pac and,
Yeah,
what he did. And like, it's awesome, but it's, now he's stuck that every project kind of has to outdo the
yeah,
previous project. And so that's kind of why I really like what Mad Dog Jones is doing. It's like, okay, and it sounds bad and I don't mean it this way, but here's another cat variant, right? It's awesome artwork. But
yeah.
it does allow a little bit more uniqueness, and so there is some really cool stuff that's going on in the space. Lauren's asked, and this is from Taurus, who's in your Discord. Any tips for artists with unique niches?
So if there's like some, I'd say to them, just stick to what you're doing, and make sure like when you're promoting it, it doesn't come across as unorganic. Eventually, the right people will always find your art. That's what I believe anyway. Like, there's so many whales out there who like will buy your art if it comes across to them, and
That's
Yeah, it's just being patient. Like the first sale is always difficult to have. It's
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When we think about unique niches, it creates the challenge where a lot of collectors or a lot of artists will try to follow the trends, right? We saw it a lot where NFT photographers and a lot of artists are trying to create 3D work
yeah,
out of it, and that's not their core competency. One
yeah,
example that I like to think of is this gentleman named David Lisser.
yeah,
Big fan of his. Shout out to him. And he has a very, very unique style. It's exploring future food production and creating techno relics of tomorrow. And a lot
yeah,
of his art is really, if you look at it, it's meat and it's in these unique ways. But if you that doesn't appeal to everybody.
yeah,
But David was able to make it onto Super Rare, and it's had massive success in doing that and sticking to what his core values were around this space. And so when people think that he sold this picture vessel, hopefully it'll load, um, for 3 ETH on Super Rare, and right, so he has a unique take, he has a unique style, but he's stuck to his conviction, and now he's on one of the best NFT platforms in the world. So I think your advice is spot on. Don't go chasing trends just because that's what's hot right now.
yeah. It's definitely like there's so much art out there. Like it's hard to find it, so it takes time, obviously.
Yeah, well, and Taurus, who's commenting here, another thing about the bodybuilding and fitness,
Yeah,
it's provocative, but there's this artist named Nude Yoga Girl on Twitter.
yeah,
She's talking about fitness and everything else, and her art is doing really well. There's a
yeah,
lot of other artists. I'm going to forget his name, and if he watches, I'm so sorry. But he does body painting
yeah,
and makes those into NFTs, and he's doing phenomenally well. I'll add it to the comments after this.
yeah,
But there's a lot of different ability for any artist to do basically anything they want, right?
yeah. It's literally anything can be achieved in this space, which is what I love.
That's awesome. So let's talk about Milan.
Yeah. I actually have a call later tonight about it. So yeah,
Well, so give us the details. Okay, what can you share?
the artist lineup has been confirmed finally. Um, there's a big event around about the same time as us for Milan. So and the Plan X guys are super nice.
You're being vague. Can you give us the dates for the Milan event, or is it still a little bit premature?
It's a little bit premature, but it's Q1 2022, so January, February time, what I'm going to say, because it's not finalized.
All right. And so you are working with the Plan X Gallery, and you're
Yeah,
going to be having an event in Milan,
yeah,
and you can't tell us too much more than that yet. So we're going to have to bring you back when you can tell us all the
yeah.
details of it. What are you thinking of after that? Do you plan on doing more UK events, more galleries? How can for the artists that missed this potential gallery, how can they start thinking about ways to promote themselves to you and Plan X to possibly be in future galleries?
Well, I'll be able to forward them to the Plan X if their artwork resonates, and then it's more what I'm gonna branch away from curation for a while to follow the token, which I've spoke to you about a few times.
Right.
Yeah, and then it's gonna get crazy for a while after this event.
That's awesome. And I can't wait to talk more to our audience about that token
We can
as well.
discuss it a bit here now.
All right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so it's gonna be funding for new artists, which is then gonna the token will be burnt at random dates throughout the year. Let's say there's no specific time period yet, but then it's going to be different artists each 2 weeks or something, and you're going to burn a random token, and it's going to give this newcomer artist a chance to showcase their work, and they'll be gaining funding to actually come into this space as a potential A-lister blue chip.
That's awesome. So basically, what this is going to be is, and we've talked about this behind the scenes, and there's some similar ideas, but I think with your background and the network that you have, you're uniquely positioned to provide value in the space. Is basically there's going to be tokens that somewhat sold on trust based on your curation background and being able to connect to big and great names, and then there's going to be pools of artists that are going to be able to have access to the collectors and basically present themselves, even if they have less NFT maturity. Maybe they're not on super rare NFT gateway yet, but it gives them a platform to share their art to a more sophisticated collector group.
Yeah. And my main goal is to onboard as many people into this space as I physically can, and that's what really excites me.
Well, and that's one of the things that the first time you and I talked, you'd been helping us just without any expectations of anything, and very quickly it was what can we do for you? And
Yeah.
you told me your ultimate vision around eventually first starting scholarships for artists, but eventually you want to actually create a school that, and we have the similar belief.
Yeah.
Hopefully we find a way to partner with it down the road after we're both successful. But the original view for Nifty Foundation was both offset carbon emissions, but we wanted to create scholarships and magnets where younger artists, because in the US, art is very, very quickly disappearing from schools. But if we could wrap art into the blockchain, and now we're teaching kids two skill sets that are going to be more and more intertwined as our digital lives and our physical lives become interacted. You had this very similar vision, and this is your number one priority, is to make that vision a reality, and that's incredibly awesome.
Yeah, it's more like, whatever we can leave behind now, we're at an age where we can grow this space in the right direction rather than going on a sidetrack and just going for short-term gains. We should build a foundation for like the next people.
That's incredibly accurate, right? It's right now there's a lot of perspective and a lot of focus on alpha. And one of the things that I realized is that and I still flip a little bit, I'm not going to pretend I don't.
Yeah.
My wallet is doxed, and you can see how often I am making trades, and you can see that the momentum of those trades has dropped off. And a big part of that reason for me personally is if I'm betting on these projects that I can buy it, and I know in my heart, I believe it's going to go to zero, and I'm buying it with the sole purpose of someone else buying it for more money before it goes to zero. Someone else gets stuck holding my bag, and there's a lot of that right now in this community and space, and that's completely detrimental to both first the collectors, because if a new collector comes in and they believe that they're going to make money off of this and they get burned enough and they don't, they're not going to come back. And if they don't come back, they're not going to be here for the second wave of NFTs. And then the next wave of artists won't have the support that they need because we were reckless during this period. And I think that's kind of been your vision that you and I have talked about behind the scenes, is how do we prepare for the next wave? How do we do our best to enable an onboard artist? Because this is a temporary time for this phase of NFTs.
Yeah, because like during the February March period, I don't know if you were in the Nifty server, there were so many people who got burnt and so many people left. And I don't want a repetition of that during this cycle. But people aren't careful. They're going for short-term gains, which is a very dangerous game in this space.
Yeah, I mean, I was there for all of it. Some pieces I sold and I still regret. Jason Eber, the first Gaze piece I sold, and I think Blake Catherine actually bought it from me, or she bought the last inexpensive one before it kind of went to out of range. I also had the Mamba Forever, which I know Boss Logic gets a lot of flack, but I think that Forever Mamba was the piece that made me fall in love with NFTs. I thought it was a masterpiece in terms of the vision it gave Kobe, and it was the most expensive piece of art I had bought at the time. It was $824, and I sold it at $5,000, and I thought I was a genius. And then it went to 20, and now it's back at 2. And like
Yeah.
that by itself kind of just describes everything that was going on. And then you talk about all the collaborations and stuff. It was just a bad time. And I do want to make a comment to anyone who hasn't been watching Nifty Gateway since that time period. I trust that team, and they're doing everything in their power. They listened, they heard, they realized that, just like everyone at that time, we thought it was a rocket ship that was never going to come back down. And then, March, April, it did. But they spent time rebuilding. The platform's better than ever. And for me personally, the art and artists on Nifty Gateway now, it feels like it did in January, but it feels like they have it right, like the Rafik Anadol exhibit in New York and everything else. So can you talk just briefly about that? Because you are, you straddle both lines where you're there as a moderator to help the community, but you also have made statements about areas that Nifty Gateway could have improved. What grade would you give them in terms of how they've listened and changed over the last 6 months?
So before I was a moderator, I wasn't directly involved with them, and so I didn't have that line of communication. So I didn't know how hard they were actually working for and the amount of time effort. So it was like I'd give them like a solid D back then, because I didn't understand how much effort they were actually putting in. But now that I'm moderator, like even like if something's going wrong, the team they just let me message them like on iMessage to pass on messages and stuff, and they look at it as soon as they possibly can to ensure customer service is good. Yeah,
That's awesome, and I completely agree. And I think that they're building the platform for the future, and I also still think that they have a unique position with the fiat currencies and the it's so hard even for me to help onboard my friends, because you have to have Coinbase or another platform. You have to have MetaMask. You have to verify the transaction. You have to interact with the contract, and then you have to buy it. And that, there's so much there. Where with Nifty Gateway, it's awesome, And I've actually even come to love the Omnibus wallet when you think about the gas fees and how prohibitive even the last 3 weeks has been for NFTs, with gas constantly high with these NFT wrapped DeFi coins. And there's benefits to the omnibus mindset, and everyone says not your keys, not your tokens, but I think that the fact that they pay the gas fees if you want to take it and put it in your wallet, if you want to bring it back, and the ability that the economy can still function, and they're bringing in new tokens, new NFTs. The economy can still function even when gas is prohibitive, on Ethereum.
Yeah, it's definitely really good, and the fact they have two-factor authentication, the MetaMasks, you can't your ledger and stuff, it gets really messy for newcomers. So it's very easy to use in comparison. Even like my sisters, they use Nifty, they still don't understand MetaMask and stuff. So I just left them to roam on Nifty.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. There's risk vectors both with keeping your NFTs in a shared wallet like the Omnibus, but there's just as much and possibly more attack vectors if your seed phrase is on your machine or you lose it. Like there's combining risk, and so that's a really interesting point. I know you typically don't like the limelight, but I've been able to keep you talking for 30 minutes. What other final thoughts do you have? And when can we talk more about the Plan X gallery?
So the Plan X gallery, I guess in December, we'll be able to talk more about it because we still haven't finalized everything. So I don't want to give out misinformation as such, but yeah, once I'll be able to talk around about it around that period, and yeah, hopefully I'll see some of the NFT culture people out there.
Depending on when it is, Milan is probably going to be a little bit harder than just a flight to Miami. But if we can make it, we definitely will. And if not, we'll do whatever we can to help promote the exhibit and the gallery. And as always, I just want to say thank you for being a friend and a mentor and doing and providing so much positivity in this space, and never have asking for anything in return. So it's been an honor to get to know you, and I can't
Yeah.
wait to continue to grow this friendship.
Yeah, it's been like it feels like we've known each other for a few months, yet it feels so long now that
It's crazy. It's nonstop, right?
yeah. Even like we saw each other for the first time for like a few month. Was it less than a month ago? We saw each other for the first time,
Yeah.
and
It's
now it's insane.
it's awesome, and it's funny and cool just to see kind of how, and this is something that people don't always see and get to appreciate, is how much behind the scenes stuff goes on to make everything work. Whether it is the team behind Nifty Gateway, whether it's the team at FanChain, Top Dog Beat, like there's so many conversations that are having, and you start to realize how many people know each other,
Yeah,
and it's the decentralized trust that comes with it. It's like, oh, he trusts him or she trusts him or her. All right, they're a good person, and so I
yeah,
can't wait to continue, and I can't wait for your token to launch, and I can't wait for the first artists to be onboarded and fall in love with the space and your long term vision. So thank you for everything.
it's all good. And thank you guys for providing a lot of like different artists to come up and bring a platform. Like so many artists like who came through you, and they're still like they're in this space, and because you guys, I like to think that you guys provide a positive impact for all the artists who come on here.
I appreciate that. And we're going to be doing a lot more of that, with Lauren joining the team. And shout out to Lauren. We're going to be doing a spaces this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. And she is an artist herself, but she's also going to be helping a lot more. Our goal is to really provide a platform for more artists moving forward. So
Yeah,
keep making recommendations and we'll keep taking them.
yeah, I definitely will.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers and bye.